All right, guys, we're going to be moving into keeping the main thing the main thing. For this week's topic, actually comes from a viewer that had a question that he wrote into the channel, and I'm really excited to get to add that to a segment for the first time. So moving forward, if you guys have segments that you would like us to do, topics that you would like us to cover in the big idea, where we usually do like sociocultural stuff over there, and then the keeping the main thing, which is our Bible study, church-centric section over here, please leave comments. Check out the link tree. You can email us. You can follow across all the platforms. Leave us the comments, and we absolutely want to address the topics that you guys want to hear about. So that's where we're going to get the keeping the main thing for this week.
Yeah. Want to be relevant.
Boom.
So let us talk about what's on your mind.
So this question, like I said, comes from a viewer, and this is what they asked. Pastor Eric, can you give us a status check on the church based on your 30 years of pastoral experience? And can you talk to us for a little bit about how you've seen the church change in those 30 years based on when you started, right, back 1990 till now?
Yeah. Oh, man. The first thing that you asked for was status on the church.
I guess it would be probably do better to do like the history, the way you've seen it change, and then maybe end with like the current status check and where does it go from here? Where should it go from here in your opinion?
When I first came into the ministry, I came into things were just changing, and actually had been going into this change. And part of that change that the church was going through was it was coming out of ultra respect for men of the cloth, because there's even that phrase, that understanding, that idea that these guys are called of God and that they are living lives, and we automatically living lives of value and virtue, and we automatically give them this respect. And so it was just out there in the community to do that. That was changing. It was well into the change. A lot of the change was because of the big discovery of the priesthood that was being involved in homosexuality and sexually abusing boys, all the way to the turn of the century. There was the thing of priests abusing females, but this got into boys. And then the rise of the youth pastor culture was going on, and in the rise of the youth pastor culture, there was sexual abuse that was going on between youth pastors and girls. And so the respect for people in the ministry.
Can I interject for just a second and
Please
talk about how sick that makes me? Because people that look at the church, like my first comeback to somebody that would be like, oh, well, you guys in the church are a bunch of hypocrites because boom, example, and you just gave like 3 of them, to which my immediate comeback would be like, don't count their sins against the church. They're no more part of the church than, well, like that is not right of the church. But the problem is that a sinful world looking for a gotcha moment is going to look at a person that puts on the Christian jersey, I like to call it. They put on the jersey, and then their sin becomes implicative, becomes indicative of the church at large. And it's just not the case. But once there's a black eye, man, you can't get away from that.
Right. And of course,
so it makes me sick.
It's
and that's
all
all
black
I
eye. And then of course, this is where during this time period, going through this time period, the respect for ministry is just going downhill. Then the next thing, you got Jimmy Swaggart that's involved. You got the bakers who are swindling money and tax evasion. The rise of the ultra rich ministers started at about this time, and you've got people in the ministry.
Gospel.
Yeah, the American gospel. And so basically I just took you through the end of the 60s all the way into the 90s and the millennium. And so when you entered into the millennium, the 2000s, then the church, instead of standing upon principles that were holy and godly, you had the cave in by the mainline, what they call mainstream denominations, where the acceptance of things that used to be called sinful, they decided that, well, you know what, we've gotten such a black eye and the world doesn't think well of us. So if we bring allowances of that in and renounce that as a part of our ministry and our preaching, then the world will like us. And so the cave in happened in part of the church. And when the main lines caved in and the other
people liking
hardliners
us is so important to the gospel.
Is a big deal. And then we went from that to where the main lines caved and the hardliners said, we've got to stick with this. Now you have the church fighting inside the church and each other giving each other a black eye. And as all of that started, now what you have is people who have no idea of faith that are standing outside and watching the show and going, well, this is interesting. This is the big reason why I don't go to church.
Yeah, it really does. It really does feel like one of those giant end of the season. All the main characters are the story arcs are like crossing at the end of like your WWE, you know, and then so and so comes in from nowhere and flies in with a chair, and then it's like you've got like 6 people in the middle of the ring, and you're like, what? What were they fighting about in the beginning? I can't even remember.
Yeah, exactly.
It's starting to feel like that. And I was raised in the church, and I'm starting to look across the formation and go, that sounded so army. I'm starting to look across the organization, and go, I am lost here. Like, what are we arguing about? I've lost the narrative. I am starting to feel like that.
Yeah, so that is, and so where the state of the church is today, the majority of the church is out in left field. They're not, they're extreme on both sides. You have the part of the majority that is out in left field is looking at doctrine that is clearly taught in God's word and said, yeah, but we don't see it that way.
Oh, geez. Did God really say?
Yeah, there you go.
Whoa.
And then you have the other of the majority that goes, by God, bless God, we're living it the way that it was, and you folks are wrong, and we're right, and we've got the corner on heaven. That's not it either. And the majority of the people out in left field are in those two camps, and that is the majority of the church.
Are you talking about the Church Universal? You're not talking
Church
about
Universal.
Protestant?
No,
Okay.
I'm talking about Church Universal. Then there's this minority of believers that are very quietly, they're the remnant, and they're very quietly listening to the voice of God. They're really trying to love people. They're really trying to walk the way that God's word asks them to walk, and they are being faithful disciples of Christ, followers of Jesus, and they're not flaunting anything. They're not throwing stuff up in people's faces, but every now and then they'll still turn around and ask somebody, wouldn't you like to have Jesus in your life? And they do it very calm, very chill, very, very sensitive, but they're still inviting people to come and be with Jesus, but they are the minority. Now, here's the hard part of it. Jesus said it would be like this.
Yeah. I was just getting ready to make that my point when you look at Matthew chapter 24 in the end, and he's talking about the end
23
times.
and 24.
He even says, and there are many that are devout that will be led away. That will be. But he also goes on to say, but take heart, for all of this must happen.
Yes. There you go.
Is the real
and said, persevere to the end. That's one of the places where he talks about persevering to the end.
Because the love of many will wax cold.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's that one group that I talked about. I'm dealing with I work for. I'm the executive director of an organization that tries to pull churches together in order to work together.
Right.
The very name of the organization is Love Inc. Inc. INC stands for In the Name of Christ. Love Inc.
Man,
And
I love Christian gotchas when you sneak in front of-
so we're trying. My job is to bring churches together and to say Jesus Christ is our center. Can we not show people the love of Christ? Doesn't leave all the rest of your theology at home. Leave all the rest of your, I shouldn't say theology. Leave all the rest of your doctrine at home. Can we not work together and show people the love of Christ? Because at the end of all of our names, it says church.
Yeah, well, one spirit, one
And
body, one church, one faith, one God, I believe it says.
it says, and we are out of time. So,
well, thank you so much. I appreciate the history, getting us to where we are, and the status check of where we are. I say we come back next week on keeping the main thing, and maybe you can give us a way forward or a way ahead. That would be the next.
oh, I'd love to do that.
That would be the next useful topic, guys.
Because that is exactly what I'm working on right now in my job.
Well, I can't wait to hear it, guys. Thank you so much for being with us this week. We usually try to encourage you during this portion. Come back next week, and we're going to give the next half of that segment of the way forward from the status of the church.
I will be here.
Follow the link above. Or down in the description, please like, comment, and share the video. Help us grow the channel, and we'll see you guys back here next week.